Glad to be here with Kate Reavey. Now, Kate, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful seeing you. We're just, talking, saying like it's fun, even if we have to sometimes see people over Zoom calls and not in person. It's wonderful seeing that pretty face of yours. So I hesitated and I paused for a second saying Reavey because you yourself are newlywed.
I recently got married, changed the name. I'm getting used to it still. I sometimes mess it up on occasion, but I'm pretty comfortable now. It took 4 months.
Well, it flows well. If you know what my opinion, it flows very nicely. So Chicago Vintage Weddings, I've had the pleasure of being friends with you and working alongside you for years. Let's talk about your business, and especially in light of how the pandemic has just changed events and these special occasions so much.
Right. Well, obviously 2020 has been a bit of an interesting year. So we've been seeing a lot of wedding postponements, some cancellations, and because I focus only on weddings, I've really been seeing a lot of what these couples are going through and having these conversations with them and educating them about what everything means. So 2020 is an interesting one because we can't have events the way we used to. There's this new normal we have to think about. All right, well, what are we going to do with all these many, many different contingency plans? What are we going to do if things are still uncertain in a few months? And what is your wedding going to look like if we try to have it during all of this versus what if we postpone and hope that things start to be okay in 2021? So a lot of what we've been seeing is just a pivot towards smaller events. So for this year, the people who are engaged, they might still be having a big celebration next year. They want to do a more intimate wedding and keep their original date for when they get married, which I love. I think it's great.
I agree. I think that's wonderful. So let's take a step back and say, what is before COVID? Tell me about what Chicago Vintage Weddings did, how you served your clients, what role you played in their wedding planning.
We do a lot of different things at CVW. I started off as the only planner in the company, and of course I still provide wedding planning services, but now I have a couple of other planners who work with me. We also do vintage rentals, so that means we rent out decor, we rent out tabletop pieces, we rent out furniture, and that's an entirely separate branch of the business that I don't run anymore. We have a manager who does that.
How's that function? I mean, as things come back to life, are you seeing some of that with, graduation parties and people, we'll get back to this, but making these intimate gatherings as special and memorable as possible, and settings and ambiance are part of that?
We've definitely been seeing just in the past month since we really entered these phased plans and started to have phase 3 with 10 guests on the horizon. And now we're about to get into, fingers crossed, phase 4. So that'll allow us to have up to 50 guests. So people
that's exciting. That's great.
It is. So people are really bouncing back from that and trying to have all of these different parties that they had to put off for several months. So we're getting a lot of requests for furniture. We've had a lot of showers, a lot of birthday parties, and we're just figuring out, how are we going to do that safely? How are we going to make sure that we're cleaning things and getting them out there, making sure that it's really healthy and safe for all of the guests to participate with our rentals. And then how are we keeping our team safe too? So it's been interesting, but overall pretty smooth.
So micro weddings, let's just talk about some of the events. Let's focus on the people who've decided that they want a couple who, rather than postponing everything for a year, and God willing, 2021, we're going to be, whatever the new normal may be, but certainly back to less concern about health risks for more compromised people and elderly people we all love and have in our lives. But some of the people have decided to move forward on these smaller events. How are you working with them, and how's that? Have you had any yet? When's the, are you excited about one? Let's talk about one that you're excited about, or an event that you're working on that's going to be special.
Sure. So I have one coming up in late August. And of course, we're keeping an eye on things. We're making sure things don't change with any new spikes. And we're prepared to pivot quickly and be flexible with our guest count if things do change. But this is a full planning couple who was supposed to get married on October 3rd. We had anywhere from 250 to 300 guests attending. We decided, okay, this is just not going to happen. And even if it could, it wouldn't be anything like the celebration they wanted. So we postponed that until next year, but they still do want to get married this year and not wait any longer. So now we're doing an August celebration in the family's backyard, just a handful of people, small little ceremony, really intimate, sweet dinner. And it's just going to be really fun, a little more casual. And I'm really excited. It's nice to be able to plan on this scale because it's really intimate. It's really meaningful. We get to invest a little more in those details that you can't really focus on as much when you have 300 people. So there's a lot of fun stuff. Plus, we get to plan 2 weddings. We get 2 different styles, 2 different dresses. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, we have to look at the positive of these things. You know, this is something that's really significant in someone's life, and they're so special and wonderful. So you're moving forward. How is it your business? Like, how are you doing from a business standpoint? A lot of what I want to do on these interviews, these calls, is really focus on the fundamentals of, you know, dollars and cents, and making sure that small businesses and my partners and so forth stay in business. How are you faring?
We are actually doing pretty well. So our overhead in some areas is really high. For example, we own our building and I have a full-time employee, but I don't have as much overhead as a lot of companies do. And we're really able to sustain through these residual planning payments that we have for this year, for a little bit of new business that we're booking. And it's not fun, you know, I'd rather be earning more money and taking more salary, but we can definitely survive. We can weather this storm. We can make it through 2021, which will be a lean year too, just because of all the postponed events. So we won't be making that same fresh income, but we'll definitely be here come 2022 and far beyond.
So well, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I mean, that's encouraging. That's what we want to hear, you know, looking ahead in a positive way. Before we part here, what do you want to share with, you know, potential, you know, maybe clients out there or people who are planning events or weddings? What words of wisdom and or advice and or suggestion might you want to give?
I would just recommend staying flexible and looking at the positives. So maybe you had to change things, but there's still some kind of silver lining in there. So just appreciate that, focus on that, and just, it's going to happen either way. So you might as well enjoy it. Just roll with these punches and you'll come out stronger on the other side.
I couldn't agree more. And you do such a beautiful job. I've seen your tabletops and some of the experiences you've created. So I know on an intimate level, they're going to be as spectacular. You know, I would say make sure you still get your hair and makeup done, because those photos live forever and you want to look your best. So thank you for joining us. We're going to have your contact information on the end. Anyone can reach out to me too, and I'd love to make a connection. So have a fabulous day, and thanks again for being here, Kate.
Thank you, Cadey. I'll talk to you soon.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Okay, so